This episode is brought to you by the Cloth Filter Company, who hand sew reusable coffee filters for all your favourite pour-over and batch brew devices. Save trees, save money, make delicious coffee. I use them almost every day, so check the show notes for details. Welcome to episode 2 of our 5-part series with Kyra Kennedy. Kyra, welcome back to the podcast. We are talking about success and leadership. In the last episode, we talked about defining success. And that's from a brand perspective. But a team is what makes a company, so people say. And that, for me, in the specialty coffee industry, was always demonstrated by Baratza. So what are the elements that go into building a successful team?
Well, I guess we talked about last time having a vision, and I'm a big vision person of why are we doing this? Simon Sinek has his book on why, which we spent quite a bit of time delving into to figure out what is our why, and that's when we came up with CARE. But each one of our customer support, our customer service, our marketing, we talked about what is our why, and the managers needed to come up with what was the vision, how did they want their teams to work together, and could they come up with a shared vision that everybody could agree with. And I remember when we were doing the shared vision for Baratza, we actually sat around the table and we said, do you guys agree with this vision? And we had been talking about it for months. And because a vision isn't something you put down on a piece of paper, it's really something that you do every single day. And so once your team, whether it's Baratza or a support team or whatever, you now have a vision that everybody's agreeing with. But what a team really is that you're working together to make that a success. And it means that you've committed to the team that you're going to do what it's going to take to get across the finish line or to be successful. And I was listening to a podcast by Brene Brown and Simon Sinek and Adam Grant. And they were talking about their best advice to somebody to be a success was to help other people be successful. And I was thinking about that when I think about teams. It's actually, on a team, the only way you can really be successful is if the whole team is successful. So you can be a great salesperson, but if the people around you aren't going to get the order out the door, aren't going to get the invoices done, aren't going to take care of the customers, aren't going to answer the question, didn't design the product right, then it doesn't matter how great you are. And so the whole idea of how do we help each other be successful, and in that make ourselves successful, make the company successful. And I guess I have always said, everything you read says that a team can do more than each of the people on the team could do. So the coming together and that feeling of autonomy, of belonging, of a shared goal, of making something happen is really what I think a team is all about.
Do you think that the idea of teams took a hit because of the impact of COVID and what that did to the workforce?
I think everything took a hit because of what COVID has done not only to the workforce, but all of us as human beings.
Mm.
I think it's just it's been it's been a difficult 2 years. People have spent a lot of time at home. I think many people feel that they're much more productive at home and they were
Mm.
able to do their jobs better. But I do think that there's a loss in a sense of learning together, of coordination and communication, of caring about the people that you work with because you don't know the little bits and pieces about them that you learn from being in an office or chit-chatting on the phone. Um, I I think that belonging um, is such an important part of being a human being that uh, Zoom calls, you can do a lot on a Zoom call. You can accomplish great things, but I do think it has affected teams. And
Mm.
and I guess I come back. I don't necessarily think people can't work at home sometimes, and I'm not going to dive into the whole hybrid thing, but I think getting to know human beings as human beings, that we all have our weaknesses, we all have problems, we're all going through different things. And they used to say that's what you talked about when you were making your cup of coffee in the morning. It's what you talked about over the water cooler when you went to it. You weren't
Yeah.
necessarily talking about business, but you were saying, "Hey, I just made an offer on a house," or "Oh, my mom just was diagnosed with cancer," or
Mm.
"Oh, I haven't got to see my grandchild in a year because of COVID," or those kinds of conversations that don't seem important enough to talk about in a Zoom meeting, but they are who we are. And they talk about both the things that are wonderful that are going in our lives, but also how human all of us are. And as we recognize that humanness in each other, I think that pulls the team together. And and so, how do you do that in a Zoom meeting? I mean, if it's a small enough Zoom meeting, you can actually go around and talk about, have everybody check in on something. That takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of intention to do. But I think people that know each other, care about each other, want each other's success. You don't even have to like each other, but you can care about each other because you understand that this is a human being that's actually going through lots of things, just like you're going through things. So, yeah, I think it has affected teams. And I think teams are trying to begin to work out how they're going to work together in the future and what's important
Mm.
to them. So I think it'll be fascinating to watch what's happening as companies either try to continue to do everything um, from home and from all over the world, or if they're bringing people back and how they make people feel that's a valuable use of their time. It's a very difficult time to be leading a team or leading a company and making these decisions.
Because there's a lot of energy that goes into leading people and putting teams together. That is very expensive and very taxing. I don't mean just financially, but it costs you a lot to conspire to somebody else's success as a
Oh,
leader.
I always love that. Yes,
That it costs a lot, right?
does. Sometimes you feel like you care more about people's success than they care about their success. But yes, it does take a lot.
Have you found as a leader that it was worth it?
Oh, it was my favorite part of the job, and it's definitely what I think I will miss the most is mentoring people
Mm.
and solving problems and maybe even the uncomfortable conversations of how do you actually get to the bottom of what the problem is when two people are disagreeing. because oftentimes what's being said isn't what the real problem is. And that taking the time to talk through what really is going on and what might be the different options and solutions that could solve that takes time and energy, and it's very uncomfortable.
Do you rank skill over passion, or do you consider it all when you're finding people for a team? Because, I mean, when you hire somebody and you bring them into a team that's going to disrupt or enhance a dynamic, sometimes it's good that you disrupt a dynamic. Sometimes you want to keep the harmony going. How do you approach finding the person for a team?
I think that's such a nuanced question, because I think for a while at Baratza we wanted to hire, I call it a little bit of groupthink. We were hiring a lot of baristas that had, because we had decided we wanted people who understood specialty coffee, and we realized that having people with different ways of looking at the world, different experiences behind them, was really important to solving problems. And looking at different possibilities, seeing different ways, hearing different things. So I would say we want people to fit our culture. And I think what fit our culture meant is to bring your unique self, with flexibility and kindness, and a willing to share your ideas. And it wasn't about groupthink or everybody agreeing on the same thing. And we really realized we needed lots of ideas in order to be successful.
In the next episode, we're going to talk about the other side of it compared to what we talked about in this conversation, which was what are the elements that make up a great team. Now we're going to talk about what are the elements that make up a great leader. And now more than ever, I think that is kind of up in the air. So this one I'm very excited about deep diving with you on. Let's do it. Peace, love, and peanut butter, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in, friends. There are 2 ways you can support this podcast. Firstly, become a paid member of our YouTube channel. Secondly, you can join our Patreon for as little as $3 a month. Both have options for exclusive ad-free content and early release content. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video before you leave, and check the show notes for more information. Now, this is what you should check out next.